It's Vandy Azul back again with another Card Fight Vanguard deck profile. I hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and to Patreon. Let's get started. So this time it's our Murakumo deck profile. This is based off the Mandala build, and if you go back, I guess to my first card fight over the, well, not the first card fight over the phone, the only fight I have on the screen with Mandala, or one of the only two fights I have with Mandala on screen, pretty much just go there and you'll see him using this exact deck profile. So anyways, let's get going. Well, not the exact deck profile, but let's just see. So first off, we have our starting Vanguard, Stealth Beast Cat Devil, the card that makes me a furry for running this, but it's basically remote upon draw one. I could have had a demon for this, or I could have had this one. I picked this one because I like the look of it, but apparently that makes me a furry. So if you build this deck the exact way I built it, you're a furry or a scaly, whichever one sounds better to you. But either way, you're one of the two. Just standard old Murakumo starter, I guess. Then Dark Knight Stealth Rogue Clog for my trigger. 2 copies of him. He's a crit. Later on, when I get more cards for this deck, it's going to be a bit different with the trigger lineup. But for right now, I run 6 crit, 4 heal, 6 front, because I just like that. 2 copies of Stealth Beast. I had Panther, 2 of the fronts, 4 more fronts of Fox Tamer, Inazu, and then 4 more copies of the crit with Stealth Beast Moon Edge. And then finally, Stealth Fiend Yukihime, because, you know, rushing with crits and fronts are more powerful, and they just push your opponent, and in this deck, rushing is just huge. One, because it's in a solo deck, but 2, it can get multiple amounts of power up, so it's just really useful all around. Next up is, so now into grade 1s, 3 copies of Stealth Rogue of Silence, Shijimamaru, 10k shield, 7k base, auto rearguard circle. When it boosts, 2 of your units with the same card name as the boosted unit get plus 3k to end of turn. So this deck, as you can tell, focuses on the ninja art of cloning, Naruto shadow cloning jutsu, all that shit. But anyways, pretty much you have multiple copies of the same unit on the field, which means when this thing boosts, that unit can get power, and then the other unit can get power, which means you have more attacks at more power. Like I said, power stacking deck. 3 copies. 4 copies of a card that I got on accident, but after I realized it exists, decided to shove it into this deck immediately. 4 copies of Stealth Dragon Amatsu Snipe, 10k shield, 7k base, continuous Vanguard or rearguard circle. If a rearguard unit was placed from your deck during this turn, it gets plus 5k. This is useful. You call from your deck like almost every other turn, so it could get plus 5, it could just be permanent. And plus, it doesn't have to be present when you call. Like, say for example, it was in your hand and you rode, and then you called a card from your deck. If the set after you called this thing, because you called during this turn, even though it wasn't present for it, it still counts towards it, so it just gets the plus 5 until the end of turn. If I'm correct, that's how it works. That it's just plus 12k for a boost. It's awesome. It's useful. If you want to, you can make Shijimamaru for and then take out a copy of this one. You can do whatever you want with these numbers, but I like it this way. Next up is 4 copies of Stealth Dragon Turbulent Edge. That already tells you this is the Mandala build, because you should not be running this if you're not playing Mandala. But if you are running this, always run it at 4, because otherwise you're an idiot. So 10k power, 10k shield, 8k power, act rearguard circle, counterblast 1, soul blast 1, and until the end of the turn, change the card name of all of your Turbulent Edges on their rearguard circle to Covert Demonic Dragon Mandala Lord, and all Covert Demonic Dragon Mandala Lord on your Vanguard and rearguard circle get plus 3. So as you can see, this deck pretty much focuses on power stacking on the Vanguard with Mandala, and power stacking every unit with Mandala, and then just boosting them to high amounts to where it's effectively hell to deal with. Because I remember the first time I used Mandala, I pushed my opponent to 5 and I was at 2 and they were at 1 because, well, I didn't get any triggers just because I had an Accel circle and I just kept rushing them with big numbers. But yeah, it can be useful. It does cost a counterblast and a soul blast, which the deck has only ways of getting soul, not really much counterblast, but it's still useful. It helps with the numbers. You only use it if you're calling final turn basically, but still. Next up is 3 copies of Demonic Hair Stealth Rogue Grenjin, auto rearguard circle, 5k shield, 9k base by the way. Auto rearguard circle, when it attacks, counterblast 2, search your deck for up to 1 Demonic Hair Stealth Rogue Grenjin, call it to rearguard, shuffle your deck, then if you have 3 or more Demonic Hair Stealth Rogue Grenjin on your rearguard circle, they all get plus 5 to end of turn. I only run this because power stacking is nice and Fushimi was too expensive. That is the equivalent to why I run this. I would not run it if I had any other choice. If Fushimi was cheaper, this would be Fushimi. But it was not, so Grenjin gets the win here. Next up, 4 copies of the card that definitely makes me a furry. Stealth Beast Bloody Mist. 5k shield, 9k base. Act, Vanguard, or Rearguard Circle. If you do not have another Bloody Mist on the field, counterblast 1 and search your deck for up to 1 Bloody Mist. Call it to Rearguard, search your deck, and that unit gets -4 for the rest of the turn. So pretty much, as long as you don't have 2 Bloody Mist on the field, you can use the skill, get another one. Granted, it loses power, but this deck can do enough power stacking as is. It does not need the extra 5k. Trust me, everything else is going to wreck through it with just pure power. And you can just, worst case scenario, put it on Accel Circle so its power becomes 10 or 15, depending on which Accel gift you got. So either way, win-win. Next up, 4 copies of the last grade tune, the most important one. Also, if you don't run this in a Magi, if you don't run this in a Mandala deck, you're an idiot. 4 copies of Stealth Dragon Magi Mandala. 5k shield, 9k base, continuous rearguard or deck. This unit's card name is changed to Covert Demonic Dragon Mandala Lord. So say, for example, you wrote onto Mandala Lord, and its ability, if you don't know, is Counterblast 1, Soulblast 1, I'll go over that later, and then you search your deck for up to 2 units, call them. But here's the thing, though. You have to have them on the field. Magi is Mandala, so say like you lost 3 copies of Mandala already, then you wrote into this, but then you want to search for Mandala to get off Turbulent, but then you don't have a Mandala. What you do is, because Magi's in the deck and it's considered a Mandala at this point, just search it out from your deck and then just call it a rearguard. It's that simple. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean you can just clone another That doesn't mean you can just clone a copy of Magi that's on your field and then call another Magi, because I think they're still counted as Mandala on the field as well, so I don't think you can do that. If you can, tell me, because that would be really cool. But I think you can only just, I think it counts as a Mandala whenever it's on rearguard or deck, so you can't clone it for a Magi. Anyways, the other skill being Continuous Rearguard Circle, the reason why you run this unit gets boost, and if you have a total of 3 or more Covert Demonic Dragon Mandala on your field, Vanguard Rearguard Circle. So, it's useful. It's a 9k booster, so you don't really use this for the intercept because the deck doesn't necessarily have enough guarding power, but this is supposed to be on your rearguard at all times as much as physically possible. So you always have it in the back row with the boost so that all of your units always get plus 9k boosters, and sometimes even more when you use Mandala's effect and Turbulent Edge's effect, which is the reason why this deck can rush like hell, and why I said it doesn't really matter that Bloody Mist loses 4k for the turn. Next up is 3 copies of Stealth Fiend Morote Surveillant. 12k base, Imaginary Gift Accel. Auto Vanguard or Rearguard Circle. When its attack did not hit, if you have 3 or more Rearguards, Counterblast 1, search your deck for up to 1 card with the same card name as one of your units, reveal it, and add it to your hand and shuffle your deck. You don't have to run this. I run this because just in case, and I like writing like every turn because Accel Gifts is beautiful and just spamming out a field is awesome. I run this because like when its attack whiffs, you can get by paying a counterblast, which the deck kind of has a problem with, you can end up searching for another Mandala or like a resource. Like say, for example, you wanted another Amatsu Snipe, or you wanted a Shijimamaru, or a Turbulent Edge, or anything to do with Mandala. You could just add it to your deck, and add it from your deck to your hand, and then reshuffle, and then all you have to do is stall for the next turn, then you can use it. But if you don't want this, I was just running Million Rat, because Million Rat's like, it does the same thing as Fushimi. I mean, it does the same thing as Bloody Mist. Counterblast 1, call another one, lose 4k for the rest of the turn. But it's still useful. It can be useful. It can be helpful. It's up to you whether you want to run this or not. Next up is 4 copies of Twin Swordsman MUSASHI. So, auto, Rearguard Circle, Vanguard or Rearguard, 12k base, Accel Gift. When it attacks, if you have more Rearguards than your opponent, so even if it's just by 1, counting this unit, until the end of the turn, until the end of the battle, this unit gets +5, and when your opponent would call Guardian from hand, he or she must call 2 or more at the same time. So like say for example, you were to attack with this, it's at 27, your opponent's at 5. For them to guard this, normally they would need like a 20. Let's just say they're using a force deck, they would use a 15, but because they have to guard 2 or more from their hand, if that's the only card in their hand, then they cannot guard. But like, you can throw it on a grade 3 with this, because if it's still enough to guard, you just have to throw down another unit, and then it's complete. But if you only have 1 hand card, you can't block this. But intercepts don't count towards that. So like say it was at 17 and then you just intercept with 2 5Ks. Well, then that's enough to block it. So, because technically speaking, you're not calling from hand, which means you only need 1 unit, but who cares? Finally, the ace grade 3 of this deck that I've been talking about for a long ass time. 4 copies of Covert Demonic Dragon, Mandala Lord, Imaginary Gift Accel, 12k base, Auto Vanguard Circle, when placed, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, choose 2 of your units, search your deck for up to 1 card with each of their same card names as those units, call them to Rearguard Circle, and shuffle your deck. That counts towards this one. So, say for example you have a Turbulent Edge and a Mandala, because Turbulent Edge technically isn't Mandala at the time, just search your deck for a Mandala, call it, search your deck for a Turbulent Edge, call it. Or it can be anything. I mean, I've cloned MUSASHI 3 times and gotten 4 MUSASHIs out on the field and then just beat the shit out of my opponent with it, but, you know, you can just do that. And then finally, act Vanguard Circle. Once per turn, put a card from your hand into its soul. If you do, all of your Mandalas on the field get plus 3k till the end of turn. So that's really useful, because you can just Turbulent Edge everything into a Mandala, then use that skill again, 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 and then use Mandala's effect, shove a hand card to soul, all of them get plus 3k. So all of them just got like 18 power, so really useful. Finally, our gifts. 4 copies of Imaginary Gift Accel 1, because there's no Magni gift, Mandala gift, I just chose to run the Astral Artwork, and then 4 copies of Accel 2 Astral Artwork. If you don't know what they do, Accel 1 gives you an extra Rearguard Circle, and it gives that unit plus 10k during your turn only. Accel 2 gives you an extra Rearguard Circle, but it only gives plus 5k during your turn only, but in exchange, you get to draw 1 when it's placed. So, it's a free draw. It's kind of shitty, to be honest. I prefer Accel 1. Accel 2 you're only going to use if your hand is that bad and you need a top deck to survive. But I can see if you would use this. But I preferably Accel 1 just for numbers. But at the same time, Accel 2 is fine because you don't really need more numbers after the numbers you got unless you just want a power stack. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to Patreon. See you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your Vanguard.